If your hands start shaking the moment you step onto a stage, your mind goes blank, and your voice gets stuck in your throat, you're not alone. Daniel Webster, one of the greatest orators of his time, became so nervous during his very first speech that he had to sit down before finishing it. Even Gladstone, one of history's most celebrated politicians, struggled with self-consciousness in his early days. Think about every time you raised your hand in a meeting but stayed silent at the last moment. Every time you knew your idea was right, yet your heart started racing before you could speak. Every time you convinced yourself that confidence is something only a lucky few are born with, and that it simply wasn't meant for you. That is the biggest misconception. Confidence is not a gift you're born with. It is a skill. And a book published in 1915, The Art of Public Speaking by Dale Carnegie J. Berg Esenwein, breaks this skill down so deeply that, even more than a century later, many of the world's greatest speakers still follow its principles, whether they realize it or not. In this video, you'll discover why fear is not your enemy. You'll learn how it's not just your words, but your voice's pitch, pace, and pauses that can transform an ordinary message into a powerful one. You'll also see how delivering the exact same sentence in a different way can completely change its meaning. But this video will only work if you watch it all the way through, because each lesson builds on the one before it. Once you understand this system, you'll never be able to speak in the same old boring, monotone way again. So, let's begin. Chapter 1. Fear is not your enemy. It's a signal. The first myth we need to break is this. People assume that confident speakers never feel afraid. The truth is, almost every great speaker began their journey with stage fright. In The Art of Public Speaking, Carnegie and Esenwein share an interesting observation. If you watch horses from the window of a moving train, you'll notice that some remain completely calm while others panic every time a train passes. What makes the difference? Exposure. The horses that see trains every day eventually stop reacting because the experience becomes normal. The exact same principle applies to public speaking. Your fear is not telling you that you're weak. It's simply telling you that you haven't faced the situation often enough. The more you speak in front of people, the more natural it becomes. No book or video can teach you how to swim until you actually step into the water. And public speaking works exactly the same way. Now, here's the real mechanism behind it. When you stand in front of an audience, your brain can focus on only one of two things, either yourself, how do I look? What will people think of me? Or your message. The moment you become genuinely absorbed in your topic, your self-consciousness naturally begins to fade. Your mind can only focus deeply on one thing at a time. It's like pouring water into a glass filled with air. The water automatically pushes the air out. In the same way, when your mind is filled with your message, there's simply no room left for fear. That leads to the first practical lesson. Know your subject so well that you understand it better than your audience does. Solid preparation naturally creates confidence because, in most cases, fear comes from being unprepared, not from nervousness itself. If you walk onto a stage without preparation, your fear is completely justified. You have a valid reason to be nervous. The book also recommends another important mindset shift. Stop seeing yourself as smaller than your audience. Many people assume the audience is there to judge them or that the listeners are somehow superior. In reality, most audiences genuinely want the speaker to succeed. No one spends their time hoping to watch someone fail. Once you realize that the audience is on your side, not against you, the entire dynamic changes. Imagine walking onto a stage with complete clarity about your topic, while believing that the audience wants you to do well. What changes? Your body language becomes more relaxed. Your voice becomes steadier. Most importantly, your message comes across more clearly because your energy is focused on delivering value instead of fighting fear. Now ask yourself one honest question. The last time you hesitated to speak up, was it because you didn't know your subject, or because you were afraid of how people might react? For most people, the answer is both. And fortunately, both problems have the same solution: preparation and repeated exposure. But confidence alone isn't enough. Even if you feel confident, if you speak in a flat, monotone voice, with the same pitch, the same speed, and the same rhythm, your audience will lose interest within minutes, no matter how valuable your content is. And that brings us to the next challenge every new speaker must learn to overcome. Chapter 2: Monotony. The greatest crime in public speaking. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people spend so much time perfecting their content that they completely neglect their delivery. And the biggest sin in delivery is monotony. Speaking in the same volume, at the same speed, and with the same tone, no matter how valuable the content is. Carnegie and Esenwein make a powerful comparison. Solitary confinement, locking a person alone in a room, is considered one of the cruelest forms of punishment in prison. Why? Because extreme monotony slowly breaks the human mind. Now think about it. If monotony is powerful enough to drive a person toward insanity, imagine how quickly a monotonous speech can kill an audience's attention. The mechanism is simple. Our brains are naturally wired to notice variety and respond to change. When something repeats without variation, the brain begins to treat it as background noise. Just like you stop noticing the sound of traffic outside your house, but immediately pay attention when you hear an unfamiliar noise. The same thing happens when someone is speaking. If you deliver your entire speech with the exact same rhythm, your audience's brain will file your voice into the background within minutes, no matter how important your words are. But when your voice has natural variation, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, sometimes louder, sometimes softer, the audience's attention keeps getting refreshed. Think about nature for a moment. Nothing in nature is truly monotonous. Birds don't chirp the same note over and over again. The sounds of a forest are constantly changing. Monotony mostly exists in things created by humans: identical buildings, repetitive schedules, predictable routines. So when your speech is monotonous, you're actually sounding less natural, not more. Now let's clear up a common misconception. Many people believe that speaking naturally means talking without making any conscious effort. But if your natural speaking style is already monotone, then simply being natural isn't enough. You need to consciously expand your vocal range. It's similar to fruit growing in the wild. Wild fruit is natural, but through cultivation, the same fruit becomes sweeter, larger, and more enjoyable. Being natural is a starting point, not an excuse. So what does this mean in practice? Over the next few chapters, you'll learn exactly how to use emphasis, pitch, pace, and pauses to break free from monotony. These are tools you already possess. You've simply never learned to use them intentionally. Now ask yourself this: the last time you watched a speech or presentation that bored you, was it because of the content or because of the delivery? In most cases, the content is perfectly fine. It's the delivery that fails. And that's exactly why the next skill, emphasis, is so important. It's the first concrete tool that can pull your speaking out of monotony. Chapter 3: Not every word deserves equal importance. Here's a mindset shift that most people never learn. Many believe that great delivery means pronouncing every single word clearly and forcefully. But in reality, a well-spoken sentence works just like a single word. Only one or two syllables receive the main stress, while the rest flow naturally around them. Think about the way you pronounce the name of a city. You don't stress every syllable equally. One part naturally receives emphasis, while the others pass by more quickly. Now apply that same principle to an entire sentence. Every sentence contains only a few mountain peak words, the words that carry the real meaning. Everything else simply connects and supports them. The book gives a simple example: destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. If you give every word the same weight, the sentence loses its impact. But if you emphasize only destiny, chance, and choice, the sentence instantly becomes sharper, clearer, and far more memorable. Why does this work? Because emphasis is fundamentally about contrast. Newspaper editors understand this perfectly. Important news appears in giant headlines, while less important stories are printed in smaller text. Your voice works exactly the same way. It has its own version of bold and regular type. You simply need to learn when to use each one. One practical technique is this: whatever word you want to emphasize, make it sound different from the words around it. If you're speaking loudly, deliver the important word in a softer voice. Surprisingly, that often creates more impact. If you're speaking quickly, slow down on the key word. If you're already speaking slowly, speed up the surrounding words so the important one naturally stands out. Emphasis comes from difference, not merely from volume. And here's another misconception worth correcting. Speaking loudly is not the same as creating emphasis. Many people think shouting makes them sound serious. In reality, true emphasis comes from intensity, not loudness. A quiet, focused statement is often far more powerful than a shouted one because it forces the audience to lean in and listen. Imagine you're explaining an important idea in one of your videos. If every sentence is delivered with exactly the same energy, your viewers won't know which part truly matters. But if you deliberately highlight just 2 or 3 keywords, slowing down slightly, changing your tone, or adding a brief pause, those words are far more likely to stay in your audience's mind. Now ask yourself honestly, when you deliver your content, do you actually know which word is the mountain peak of each sentence? If not, here's a simple exercise. Before your next recording, read through your script and underline the single most important word in every sentence. That one habit alone can transform your delivery. But emphasis isn't the whole story. Emphasis tells your audience what is important. Your pitch tells them how they should feel about it. And that's the next layer that takes your speaking to another level. Chapter 4, Pitch. The high and low game of your voice. Pitch simply refers to how high or low your voice sounds. And the book offers one golden rule. Whenever your thought changes, your pitch should change too. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most commonly violated rules in public speaking, especially by people who memorize their speeches. When you recite something from memory, your brain focuses on the words, not the meaning. That's why memorized speeches often sound flat, mechanical, and robotic. But in natural conversation, something very different happens. First comes the idea. Then come the words. Because you're thinking in real time, your voice naturally rises and falls along with your thoughts. Watch young children speak. They almost never sound monotone. Their voices constantly move up and down without any training because they're expressing genuine thoughts and emotions. As adults, however, the moment we step onto a stage or face a camera, we often abandon that natural instinct and replace it with an artificial, flat speaking voice. Here's one of the most powerful applications of pitch. A sudden change in pitch can instantly create emphasis. If you've been speaking in a medium or high pitch and suddenly switch to a deep, calm, serious tone, your audience's attention immediately sharpens. Again, it's the principle of contrast. Just as white appears brighter against a black background, a sudden drop in pitch instantly signals that something important is happening. New speakers often make another common mistake. When they're nervous, their voices naturally climb into a much higher pitch. The book recommends developing a lower, steadier, bell-like voice because it generally sounds stronger, calmer, and more pleasant to listeners. An excessively high-pitched or strained voice, on the other hand, can quickly become tiring for an audience. Imagine you're recording the introduction to a video. If your entire introduction stays at exactly the same pitch, your viewers receive no emotional signals. They can't tell which parts are exciting, which parts are serious, and which ideas deserve extra attention. But suppose you deliver your curiosity hook with a little more energy and a slightly higher pitch. Then, when you introduce an uncomfortable truth, you deliberately lower your voice and slow down. Without consciously realizing it, your viewers begin to feel that something significant is happening. Now ask yourself one honest question. When you listen back to your own recordings, does your voice stay within the same narrow range from beginning to end? For most new creators, the answer is yes. Not because they lack a good voice, but because they're reading a script instead of experiencing the ideas they're expressing. The solution is surprisingly simple. Stop trying to read your script. Instead, understand each line first. Feel what it means. Then speak it as though you're explaining it to a close friend. The moment the thought genuinely becomes your own, your pitch begins to vary naturally. But pitch isn't the whole story. The speed at which you speak, your pace, is just as important. And that's the next layer we'll explore. Chapter 5: Pace. Changing your speed, the silent weapon of emphasis. Tempo, or the speed at which you speak, is a tool that very few people use consciously. In the book, it's explained through the comparison of an ox cart and an express train. They both move at different speeds, and when a speaker delivers an entire speech at the same pace, they waste one of their most powerful tools for creating emphasis. Think of it like cricket. A bowler who delivers every ball at exactly the same speed quickly becomes predictable. But a bowler who constantly changes the pace, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, keeps the batsman guessing. The same principle applies to public speaking. Changing your pace isn't just about adding variety, it's also about sounding natural. In everyday conversation, we never speak at one constant speed. We rush through simple facts, but when we reach something emotional or important, we instinctively slow down. That's our natural speaking rhythm. Here's an interesting mechanism. If you spend a long time traveling on a train moving at a constant speed, you eventually stop noticing the sound. Your brain filters it out. But the moment the train suddenly speeds up or slows down, your attention immediately returns. The same thing happens with your audience when you change your speaking pace. Here's a powerful technique. If you want a key idea to stay in your audience's mind, slow down just before you reach it. Then, either accelerate unexpectedly or become dramatically slower when delivering the important line. That sudden contrast creates a mental marker, making that moment far more memorable than everything around it. But there's an important warning. One of the biggest mistakes new creators make is speaking too quickly, especially when they're nervous or trying to fit everything into a limited amount of time. When you speak too fast, your audience doesn't have enough time to absorb what you're saying. It's like heavy rain falling too quickly. The water runs off the ground instead of soaking into it. Imagine you're delivering an emotional realization in your video, a moment you want your viewers to truly feel. If you maintain your usual fast pace, the emotional impact disappears. But if you deliberately slow down during that one sentence, you give your audience the time to process it. Now ask yourself honestly, does your entire video move at exactly the same speed, whether you're explaining a simple fact or revealing a life-changing insight? If the answer is yes, you're making even your strongest moments feel ordinary. Changing your pace gives you both emphasis and naturalness. But there's another tool that creates an even more dramatic effect. And that tool is intentional silence. The pause. Chapter 6: Pause. The silence that speaks loudly. Here's perhaps the most counterintuitive lesson in the entire book. Many people believe that a great speaker is someone who talks fluently without ever stopping. The truth is exactly the opposite. The greatest speakers know when to remain silent. First, let's clear up an important distinction. A pause is not the same as hesitation. When someone says, well, you know. That isn't a pause, it's uncertainty. A real pause is intentional. It is a controlled silence placed before or after an important idea to increase its impact. Now let's understand why pauses are so powerful. The first purpose of a pause is to help you gather your thoughts. Imagine holding a magnifying glass steady under sunlight. The light concentrates until it becomes powerful enough to ignite a match. But if you keep moving the lens, the heat never builds. The same thing happens with your thoughts. Pausing before an important statement allows your mind to focus its energy before delivering it. The second purpose is to prepare the audience. Everything in nature follows rhythm. Day is followed by night. Every breath contains a pause. Even every heartbeat has a moment of silence between beats. Rest naturally follows activity. If you never allow your audience to rest, their attention gradually becomes numb. Just like city residents stop noticing the constant sound of traffic, while someone visiting from a quiet village notices it immediately because it's different. The third purpose of a pause is to create suspense. Human beings enjoy anticipation. That's why we love mystery novels and thriller movies. If you reveal your biggest insight without any build-up, much of its impact disappears. But if you stop for just a moment before delivering it, your audience's curiosity reaches its peak. The fourth purpose is to give important ideas time to sink in. The book compares this to a farmer in Missouri. When rain falls too heavily and too quickly, the soil cannot absorb it. The water simply flows away. Ideas work the same way. If you rush into your next point immediately after making a powerful statement, your audience never gets the chance to process what they just heard. Imagine revealing the central insight of your entire video. If you deliver it as part of your normal flow, it blends into everything else. But if you take one deliberate pause before speaking, your audience's brain immediately becomes alert. Without consciously realizing it, they begin thinking, something important is about to happen. Now ask yourself honestly, do you ever pause intentionally while recording, or do you speak non-stop simply because it makes editing easier? If you never pause, you're wasting one of the most powerful and completely free tools available to every speaker. Emphasis, pitch, pace, and pauses all determine how you speak. But there's one more layer that ties them all together. That layer is inflection, the subtle changes in your voice that occur even within a single word. Chapter 7, Inflection. One word, three different meanings. The book explains a famous saying, "It is not so much what you say as how you say it." Inflection refers to the rise and fall of your voice within a single word or phrase. It is so powerful that the exact same words can communicate completely different meanings depending on how they are spoken. The book shares a classic example from the theater. The actress Sarah Siddons delivered the words "we fail" in three entirely different ways. The first time, she spoke them quickly with a questioning tone, as if asking, "Will we fail?" The second time, she spoke with shock and disbelief, as if saying, "We fail." The third time, she delivered them slowly in a deep, resolute voice, as if declaring, "If we fail, then everything is over." The words never changed. Only the inflection did. Yet the meaning became completely different each time. That is the power of inflection. The mechanism is simple. Your voice has only two basic movements, rising and falling. Yet these two movements combine in countless ways to express every emotion: curiosity, doubt, confidence, certainty, surprise, determination, and more. Generally speaking, a rising inflection suggests uncertainty, incompleteness, or a question. A falling inflection suggests confidence, certainty, and conclusion. Now imagine asking your viewers, have you ever wondered where your time is actually going? If you deliver that sentence with a completely flat, falling tone, it sounds more like a statement than a genuine question. But if you allow your voice to rise naturally on the word "where," your audience instinctively recognizes it as a real question. and they begin searching for the answer in their own minds. That's why inflection isn't just a technical detail. It directly influences how your audience thinks. The wrong inflection can make a sincere statement sound sarcastic, or turn a genuine question into something that feels purely rhetorical. Here's a practical exercise inspired by the book. Take the most important lines in your script and read them using different inflections. If you're asking your audience a genuine question, let your voice rise naturally. If you're making a confident conclusion, let your voice settle into a calm, falling tone. Emphasis, pitch, pace, pauses, and inflection are all technical tools. But there's one thing even more important than technique. No speaking technique can truly work unless it is backed by genuine feeling. And that brings us to the most important layer of all. Chapter 8: Force and Feeling. Technique is useless without emotion. So far, we've focused on technique. But the book gives a clear warning. If these techniques aren't backed by genuine emotion, they become hollow, mechanical, and sometimes even ridiculous. A speaker who inserts dramatic pauses for no reason or raises their voice without real feeling immediately comes across as fake. Here's the real mechanism. Force doesn't mean loudness. Force means intensity. And true intensity comes from within. It exists only when you genuinely believe in what you're saying. If you aren't convinced by your own message, no vocal technique can make it convincing to someone else. That's why the most important step happens before you create your content. Ask yourself, do I genuinely believe this point? Have I actually applied it in my own life? If the answer is yes, your voice will naturally carry an authenticity that no technique can imitate. Here's a simple test. If you don't feel energized while recording, your audience won't feel energized either. Enthusiasm is contagious, but fake enthusiasm is just as easy to detect. So if a topic doesn't genuinely excite you, either drop it or change your angle until you find a perspective that truly connects with you. Now imagine two creators delivering the exact same script with the same structure. One genuinely believes every word because they've lived the experience. The other is simply reading lines without any personal connection. Even if their technical delivery is identical, viewers will instinctively trust the first creator more because genuine emotion adds a subtle texture to the voice that simply can't be faked. Now ask yourself honestly, out of your last 3 videos, which points did you truly believe, and which ones did you say simply because they were written in the script? Your answer will reveal why some parts resonate with your audience while others don't. But even genuine emotion isn't enough if you don't deeply understand your subject. And that brings us to the next critical piece: preparation. Chapter 9: The Real Source of Fluency. Preparation, not memorization. One of the most common mistakes new speakers and creators make is trying to memorize their script word for word. The book makes an important distinction. Memorization is not mastery. When you memorize a script, your brain focuses on what's the next word, instead of what's the idea I'm trying to communicate. That's why memorized speeches often sound flat, robotic, and predictable. You're recalling words, not expressing thoughts. Real fluency comes from deep knowledge of the subject, not perfect memorization. When you understand your topic so thoroughly that you can explain it in your own words, in any order, your delivery naturally becomes conversational because you're thinking, not reciting. Here's why. When your understanding is shallow, your brain depends on exact wording. If you forget a sentence, your entire explanation falls apart. But when your understanding is deep, the wording becomes flexible because the knowledge exists independently of any specific sentence. Here's a practical technique. Research your topic until you can explain it casually to a friend without looking at a script. Be able to answer questions, rearrange ideas, and explain the concept from different angles. Once you reach that level of comfort, writing the script becomes much easier, and delivering it becomes even easier. because you're simply expressing ideas you already understand. Imagine someone suddenly asks you to speak for 5 minutes about the topic of your next video without any notes. If you can do it confidently, your knowledge is probably deep enough. If you struggle, it means your understanding exists only inside the script, and the camera will expose that immediately, no matter how well the script is written. Now ask yourself honestly, when preparing your next video, do you research only enough to write the script, or enough to truly understand the topic? Your audience may never consciously notice the difference, but subconsciously, they almost always do. Yet even preparation and technique together are incomplete without one final ingredient: your way of thinking. Because your mindset quietly reveals itself in every video you create. Chapter 10: Right Thinking. What's inside always comes out. This is perhaps the deepest and most fitting idea with which the book concludes. All the techniques we've discussed, emphasis, pitch, pace, pauses, and inflection, are surface-level tools. They become genuinely powerful only when they're supported by a disciplined and well-ordered way of thinking. The book's central argument is that public speaking isn't merely a performance. It is an outward expression of your inner life. If your thinking is confused, your speech will eventually become confused as well, no matter how polished your vocal techniques are. If your thinking is clear and disciplined, that clarity naturally appears in your delivery. Here's why. Whenever we speak, we aren't simply producing words. We're giving voice to our habitual patterns of thought. If your daily thinking is scattered, negative, or disorganized, those patterns inevitably leak into your speech, regardless of how carefully you've written your script. But if you consistently practice thinking with clarity, purpose, and intention, your voice naturally reflects confidence and conviction. For content creators, this is an especially important mindset shift. Many people believe great delivery is purely technical, a matter of voice modulation, well-timed pauses, and effective script structure. This book argues otherwise. The true foundation is your everyday way of thinking. A person who makes clear decisions, maintains strong principles, and understands their values naturally speaks with authority. That authority isn't created by technique. Technique simply amplifies what already exists. Imagine two creators working in the same niche and using the same speaking techniques. One lives with discipline, clarity, and purpose. The other lives with confusion and inconsistency, trying to appear confident only when the camera turns on. Over time, audiences instinctively recognize the difference. Because genuine clarity can never be faked. It can only be imitated, for a while. Now ask yourself one final question. Are you trying to improve your speaking skills without improving the clarity of your thinking? If the answer is yes, you're searching for a surface-level solution to a much deeper problem. The message of this entire book can be summarized in one simple sentence. Technique can make you a better speaker, but genuine clarity and conviction are what make you unforgettable. And the truth is, those two things can never be separated. Technique without clarity is empty. Clarity without technique is limited. Only together do they create truly powerful communication. Chapter 11: Voice Clarity. Stop swallowing your words. The book addresses another practical problem that many speakers face. They simply don't pronounce their words clearly enough, especially when they're speaking quickly or feeling nervous. Word endings disappear, syllables blend together, and the audience has to make an unconscious effort just to understand what's being said. This quality, known as distinctness, is a separate skill from emphasis or pitch. It is fundamental. If your audience struggles to understand your words, none of the advanced techniques will matter because the foundation itself is weak. The mechanism is simple. When you speak too quickly or articulate lazily, consonants, especially those at the ends of words, such as T, K, and D, become soft or disappear altogether. Your audience's brain is then forced to fill in the missing pieces, creating unnecessary cognitive effort. If this continues throughout your speech, your listeners eventually become mentally tired and begin to disengage. Here's a practical solution. When reviewing your recordings, don't focus only on your content. Pay close attention to your clarity as well. Ask yourself, is every word clearly distinguishable, or are some words blending into one another? Whenever you reach faster sections of your script, consciously maintain crisp articulation instead of sacrificing clarity for speed. Now imagine delivering the single most important insight in your video, but at that exact moment your words become rushed or muffled. Your audience won't experience the full impact of that idea, because they'll be busy decoding your speech instead of absorbing your message. That tiny moment of friction is often enough to break their attention. Now ask yourself honestly, when you listen back to your older videos, are there moments where even you need a second to understand what you said? If the answer is yes, that's exactly where your clarity needs improvement. Voice clarity is an invisible foundation. When it's done well, nobody notices. But when it's missing, the entire delivery feels weaker, no matter how strong everything else may be. Chapter 12, The Truth About Gestures. A lesson that applies even to faceless channels. This chapter is especially interesting for creators with faceless channels. Although the book discusses physical gestures, its core principle extends far beyond body language. The central idea is this: a gesture, whether it's a hand movement or a vocal expression, should never be planned artificially. It should emerge naturally from genuine feeling, not be inserted as a performance technique. This principle applies perfectly to voice-only content. If you deliberately insert a dramatic pause or emotional emphasis simply because you think this is where speakers usually do it, but you don't actually feel anything at that moment, your audience will sense the artificiality almost immediately. But if the point genuinely matters to you, and you allow that emotion to naturally shape your voice, it feels authentic. The mechanism is exactly the same one we've discussed throughout this book. Your internal emotional state shapes your external expression. If you secretly find your own point boring, your voice will sound boring too, regardless of how many speaking techniques you apply. But if you're genuinely excited, fascinated, or frustrated by an idea, those emotions naturally appear in your voice without conscious effort. Here's a practical exercise. While writing your script, highlight the points that genuinely excite you or feel personally meaningful, not just the ones that seem likely to generate engagement. When it's time to record, you'll naturally have more energy during those moments because your emotions are real. Imagine you're sharing a surprising fact that genuinely shocked you while researching. If you relive that surprise while speaking, your audience experiences it with you. But if you simply say, "This is surprising," without actually feeling surprised yourself, your audience won't feel anything either. Now ask yourself honestly, for every major point in your script, are you actually experiencing the emotion you want your audience to experience? If not, either rewrite the content until it genuinely resonates with you, or remove that section altogether. Now that we've covered every major principle, confidence, avoiding monotony, emphasis, pitch, pace, pauses, inflection, genuine emotion, deep preparation, disciplined thinking, voice clarity, and authentic expression, it's time to see how all of these pieces fit together. Final thoughts. Let's quickly recap everything we've learned. Confidence isn't a gift. It's a skill developed through repeated exposure. Monotony is the greatest enemy of effective speaking. Emphasis, pitch, pace, and pauses are 4 powerful tools you already possess. You simply need to use them intentionally. Inflection alone can completely change the meaning of a sentence. And beneath every one of these techniques lies the true foundation: genuine emotion, deep preparation, and clear thinking. Now the question is, will you consciously apply these principles in your next video? Or will you continue speaking the same way you always have? If this video has made you think differently about your delivery, make sure to leave a like. It isn't just a way to support the channel, it's a commitment to improving your speaking skills. And if you enjoy deep, practical breakdowns that go beyond motivation and give you real, actionable frameworks, subscribe to Gollari Books. This channel isn't just about summarizing books. It's about showing you how to apply their ideas in real life. Finally, leave a comment with just one word: emphasis, pause, or pace. Which technique are you most excited to try in your next recording? I'd love to see which one gets the most votes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video with another powerful insight.